Om Lokaha Samastaha Sukhi no Bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. What's up, everyone? It's Phoenix here. Hope you're doing well this Wednesday, February 8th. Oh, a lot of movement today. Been trading all morning, but it's been good. It's been profitable so far. Of course, more screwy PA and crypto, but it is what it is. Stocks have been falling today. Let's go through some charts. I'm going to be as clear and concise as possible. Hi, Adam. How's it going? I'm not sure if anybody's even paying attention. I've been posting a lot in the C3 group. I know that many of you work, so you maybe don't see them right away. But for me, it's really important what's happening right now. Over the next couple of days, I think that we could be headed for a much deeper correction. And so I've been preparing for that with my trade setups. And I'm going to show you some of my thoughts. Of course, I'll try to play both scenarios, both sides, both the bullish and bearish sides of the coin. But starting with the Dixie, we have seen a slight pullback in the Dixie, but now it looks to be finding some support on the daily. And so that could have been it for the pullback down to 103. And now it's pushing back up again. Okay. And so that is also creating a deeper pullback in the stock market. We see with ES, S&P 500 is down again today. So that's the second rejection there and a daily close below, as I mentioned in the group. This is indicative of likely a larger or deeper pullback from this quarterly level. Okay. And we're seeing that the VIX is up 5.5% today, and it's very close to breaking this diagonal trend line. When the VIX goes up, more volatility with the S&P 500 and likely leads to more downside, usually is the case when we see this start to spike up. So that's what we're seeing in stocks. Google's down 7.5% today. All of the stocks are pretty much down with the exception of Tesla from what I'm seeing. There's, of course, some other exceptions in the mix there, but most of them are down significantly today. And I would expect there to be a continuation of that in the days to come. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's just the signs that I'm seeing. And so with all of that context, we can take a look at Bitcoin. Really hasn't done much today. Surprisingly, it hasn't done much. We're still range bound with Bitcoin, but we are below the monthly open at 23,152. Now, Ethereum did show some signs that it wanted to break down earlier in the day, but now it's attempting to push back up yet again. It's been just kind of endless chop for Ethereum. We've been in this range for, I think it's been about 3 weeks now. And I just wish that they would just get on with the show here. It's been 25 days that we've been in this between about 1500 and 1690 or so, 1700. So what is going on? What's going to happen with Ethereum? This 4H candle is very telling in my humble opinion. After not one, but two, three attempts to push up higher, and yesterday was another sort of head fake breakout and then broke down. And now we broke down back below the 1665 level once again, which was the high of this range is what I'm considering it at least. And these would be deviations. So we had actually 3 deviations above this range and then another breakdown. Now, what'll be curious to me to see, I shorted this morning from 1660s and took some profits, got back in down here, but smaller position size. I'm actually expecting a retest up here. And I think that this is looking mighty juicy for me as far as adding to my entry. If I see some weakness here and it starts to really break down from here, then I would be sizing up pretty significantly on this. That's just my sense on this. But then if it pushes up and continues to head higher, then we're looking at a whole different scenario here. Again, maybe it makes another attempt. Maybe we try again, but there's not enough reason. There's no reason for this to happen aside from just a final stop run, in which case I don't see how high they could really push it. Because we had, Jerome Powell yesterday made his remarks. People interpreted it however they wanted, but he was very clear in what he said that there needs to be more tightening, basically, more monetary, more financial restrictions that are going to bring the markets down. And people just kind of interpreted it and went the other way with the price, and now it's back down again. So I don't know how much longer this can draw on for, but I think that there's going to be resolution sooner than later. I think we're going to see some pretty strong expansion here, and the probability is to the downside. Even though it looks like, even though again this looks bullish, just looking at the chart by itself, given the context and what the other markets are doing, it's not bullish. It's if I think that if it were going to push higher up into the 17 to 1800 range, that it would have already done that. It's already had 3 attempts at it. And today we've seen some strong sell-offs, and now we're seeing that reactionary bounce. This whipsaw price action kind of drives you crazy after a while, but you kind of have to just tune it out and not really be affected by it. Of course, easier said than done. But again, I'm looking at this 1665 level for Ethereum to see if it can break down from there. And then a lot of the alts, like Matic today, I don't know what the hell Matic's doing. It's like, back-to-back ice cream sandwiches here. It's just kind of up and then down and then up and then down. We had this spike up above, but notice something really critical here. This level here, okay? This was the previous high here. Swing fail, perhaps. And if you go back here, this is a very obvious supply zone. So we wicked into the zone. So maybe it comes up and comes up even higher again still, but I have my doubts. I think the high could be in for Matic. And as a matter of fact, I do have a short position, which I'm scaling into at present. I'm basically in around here. And we'll see if it spikes up again. Maybe it tries it 2 or 3 times. It's been very stubborn. It's up today when everything else is down. Phantom's down almost 11% today. I had a short in Phantom, and I exited that one. Actually, this was sizing up another short. I exited that one. I got in from somewhere up here because I'm expecting somewhat of a bounce here. And also I have some other alts that I've shorted, Aptos and Optimism from up higher, Optimism from way up here. And I'm going to hold on to these because I feel like there's going to be more downside. Now with Optimism, this is actually giving us a setup right now that if it comes up here, retests, and then we see it start to show some weakness and break down, that would be a short trigger for me to maybe even add to my existing position here. And I'd be shorting it down to minimum 244, probably all the way down to this 220 level for Optimism, okay? Now, if on the other hand, Optimism comes back up and starts to show some strength and breaks above, then that could be a long trigger for those of you that are still in the bullish camp, okay? Regardless, in either situation, I'd be holding on to my short. So if that's any indication of where I stand with it, Aptos will likely give us a slight bounce here as well, in addition to Optimism. And I would be looking to see if it retests this level here, this 1560 level, see if it comes back up and then shows weakness there. That would be a short trigger, okay? Otherwise, maybe it breaks down from here, and then I'd be looking to enter somewhere down here, somewhere around 1434. This could honestly happen at any hour. It could happen anytime now. I mean, here we are. Ethereum now is pushing back up again. Okay, so I mean, I think that this is just sort of one last push. Of course, I could be completely wrong about this. It's really hard to predict this with everything that we've seen so far. But I feel okay holding on to my short here and letting it ride for a bit and seeing if we get a rejection wick up above the 1665. The reason that I have this level is not only because it's the range high according to what I've identified here, but also if you notice this pattern that's formed, these are sort of the lows. I mean, it could come up to the 1670 area here, but if it rejects strong off this level, that'll be a telltale sign to me that Ethereum's headed south. It's going to happen probably really quickly. Now ETH BTC was stronger. It's shown a lot of strength, so it could continue to hold better than Bitcoin. We need Bitcoin to fall if Ethereum's going to fall, obviously, and it's hard to say which one will go down harder and faster. Usually it's Ethereum, but Ethereum has been stronger than Bitcoin as of late. Okay, so that's Aptos, Optimism. Phantom, I exited only because there was so much already, so much, so many red candles, and I was anticipating a bounce probably back somewhere up around this monthly open here. And that would be around 53.5367. Maybe it deviates above it. And I'd be looking to maybe get back in this because it's sort of oversold right now relative to the other altcoins. It's down 10.75%. So that's why, that was my thinking, why I got out of this. Usually I would just sort of hold on to a trade like this because we saw Phantom retest actually. Notice that retest. That's not really a straight line, but notice the retest of this level here. Okay, these were sort of the lows of this range here, this top, and then it came up, wicked up perfectly to that, and then rejected. Okay, and so I would say absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the highs are in for Phantom, and it's looking like it wants to head much lower. And the question is where to enter. I would not long this, but again, up here, if it spikes up anywhere at or above this 0.5373, then I'd be looking to potentially take a short here with Phantom. A conservative entry could be somewhere maybe below this pink line here, which is at 0.5215. Okay, so that level there, that's a weekly level that if we go back, we can maybe see something. Yep, and there's that level right there, and also ties in with all of this price congestion in here. Okay, so can you all hear me okay? I turned up the volume a little bit. I had some comments that people weren't able to hear me, that it was sort of quiet. Hi, Mr. Slim. And we could just continue to be range bound forever, and I'll just bang my head against the wall. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I mean, yeah, this looks like, it looks like we just saw a full bull market, and now we have the distribution top here. That's just, basically the distribution seems to have gone on longer than the rally itself. If that makes any sense. I mean, how long was this? When did we really start to rally here? Let's just call it, we say we started here. 24 days. So we've been 25 days in this whole range here. 24 days in the rally. It is what it is. So Matic, for conservative entries for Matic, I would not be looking to long this, but if you wanted to, go for it. None of this is financial advice, of course, but this, we actually have something to work with here. There's sort of a range here that's formed in the last 6 hours or so. So let's just say that Matic actually does sort of gradually stair steps, which doesn't look like it wants to do that right now. But let's just say that it does that, and it gets above this 1327, and then holds above, and it's not just some crazy wick that just instantly gets rejected. If that's the case, okay, well let's just do all the different strategies here. So if it gradually comes up and starts to hold above this 1327, then that could be a long, but just be careful because this entire zone is a supply zone, okay? And it is just above this previous level that I showed before, where it just was so obviously, it's so obvious right here. And maybe it's a little too obvious. Maybe they run it up another 10%, who knows? Considering what it's done so far today relative to the rest of the market, this is where you have to be really careful. But also, this is where you could make a lot of money really quickly. So there's that scenario. That's the long. The short scenario, there's a few of them. One would be we get another crazy wick, and then it rejects like pretty hard, and we see at least, a pin bar sort of where the body is, it's only maybe 25% of the actual length of that candle. That would be sort of ideal. And then it gets back inside this range. If that were the case, then I would probably add to my existing position here. Or it just fails to hold the range and then it eventually starts to break down. And then this would be sort of a conservative trigger down here, and that is below 130. And one thing with Matic is that, I watch carefully what ETH is doing because Matic definitely follows along closely. And so it's hard for Matic to continue to just pump indefinitely when Ethereum is dumping, which is why it sort of was a surprise this morning that it did that. I waited patiently for it to hit this. But one thing that you should notice about Matic here is that if you just look at the price action for the last 6 hours or so, I mean, just look at how indecisive it is all of a sudden. After we don't really have this pattern play out throughout this entire rally. You don't see it. You don't see it if you zoom in closely. You don't see those candles squished together going in both directions. I mean, it was sort of happened here a little bit, but that was sort of the beginning of the rally, right? That was more in the beginning of the rally. And now we're kind of looking like it's the end of the rally, and you see these wicks in either direction, and the rest of the market has been down. So playing the probabilities, which side would you want to be on here? And to me, it's kind of a no-brainer, but that's just how I work through this logically. So that's Matic. BNB is actually also at a key level. A lot. I mean, all of these are really. BNB, if you notice on the daily, this is a weekly range here. It's at the top. It's very close to the top of this range, and lo and behold, it looks like it wants to reject from the range. So from the top. So if you drop down now and you look on the 4H, you can see there is a range here, a mini little range that we can identify. And let's just actually be conservative and call this the low here. And these are sort of the highs. This is the high here. And then if it breaks down and starts to show weakness down here, then that could be an entry. Aggressive entries, or another entry would be if it comes back up once again, wicks up here, gets back inside. And that would be, I would definitely want to take that up there. Those would be sort of the two main short triggers. And then if it comes down, it's probably going to come down to, at minimum, I would say, this is where I'm targeting the mid of these ranges, which actually this looks like it is the precise mid. It's very clean. This is a very clean chart here. You can see this range here, and then the mid of this range also happens to be the mid of this larger weekly range. So there's some confluence there. So this 279 would be what I would be ultimately targeting for BNB if I were to short that. And Litecoin, I'm not going to do too many today. I'm just trying to be really concise here. But Litecoin also has been sort of fumbling around up here as is expected. It's in the middle of this larger supply zone here, if you want to call it that. Yes, I would consider this a supply zone. And so here's your range. And so far we've had these two rejection wicks. So I'm careful with Litecoin because I've been burned on this one too many times. It's shown bullishness. It's kind of surprised me with its upward momentum on several occasions. And so, and it's also very choppy. And so I'm not really keen to trade this, but it may be that Litecoin makes one more final push up here and then rejects. And then that would be your trigger. Or maybe these wicks mean nothing and it finally comes back down and then it shows weakness here, and that would be your trigger. A long trigger, of course, would be if it comes back up above here and gets back up here. Some people might be longing it right now. I mean, obviously they are if they're pushing the price up, right? But you see these wicks usually near the bottom of a range. This would be sort of a long trigger, but I'm not taking any longs right now because I'm expecting more downside. So with AVAX has also been sort of in a little chop zone for about a week now. And this level here, this 1978, would be what I would be looking at once it really definitively breaks down from here. then I would be looking to potentially short AVAX. I don't know that it has anything left for another push up, but you never know. Maybe it pushes all the way back up again. I'd be looking up here, this 2134, and looking for a short there. Okay, so I've done AVAX, Litecoin, BNB, Optimism, Aptos. Did we look at Phantom? Yeah, Phantom, Matic, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. I actually haven't looked at Bitcoin yet because Bitcoin is basically in the middle of this range, and I'm just not really interested in it here. But if it does break down, it might do something like this where it really comes down hard beneath this 22.5 and then deviates and gets back above, and then or retest. Oh, my chart is moving around. So it might come down here and start to deviate, get back, maybe sort of hover around here. And then if I see some weakness in a pattern and it starts to break down, then I would be looking to short that. So this 22,500 level would be a key area for me. But by the time Bitcoin gets here, I will have likely already entered into all of my alt positions, including Ethereum, if that makes sense, because they're looking juicier to me right now. So it's kind of like, you know, first come, first serve. And so if I don't see a setup with Bitcoin that I like, and I see some alts that just look like they want to completely crater, I'm going to take those first. So Optimism is one of those that I just feel like it's really going to head down now. I mean, it's already, at one point it was down 11% today. And Aptos I think is going to fall a lot further as well. Of course, there's always higher risk with the altcoins, but the potential for higher reward if you know what you're doing. People ask me if I'm just starting out, should I be trading these altcoins? Probably not. You can do well or you can get wrecked. But it's just, you've got to be aware that the price can move quickly. You have to monitor your trades very closely and be prepared for anything, and be prepared to cut your trades if it goes against you faster than you might have to with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin is more steady, relatively speaking. It has its crazy scam wicks too, but it's just not as extreme on the whole. This looks very much like a distribution pattern to me. I would be very surprised if, I would be surprised if Bitcoin did this. Okay, I don't think that it's going to do that. Here's your up thrust after distribution. And this just looks very toppy to me. You know, if it was showing some continued strength here and it was able to hold above this 23,300 level, and it was really just hovering here instead of down here where it is currently, then I would say, okay, maybe it's not a distribution pattern. A redistribution is what you call it. With Ethereum, it's the same thing. These look like up thrusts. You could take this, you know, all of these are little mini up thrusts, and it never plays out exactly the same. But for those that are maybe conservative, you know, you could wait for it to come down maybe below the monthly open and start to break down, or maybe it comes back down below this 1500 and starts to break down. Many people are going to be mistakenly believe, at least in my humble opinion, that this is going to be where to buy, where to go long. And I say, well, watch the charts and see what the price does when it gets there, because you never really know. If it's really coming into that level really hard and fast, then that's a sign that's probably going to drop a lot further. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Ethereum come back to this 1425. I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back to 1300. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin come back down to all the way down to 20K. I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back down to 18,600 again. Okay. And that's sort of, you know, that's kind of like crazy thinking for a lot of people, but it was crazy thinking when I was long 16K and people were thinking, you know, there's no way it's going to go back up to 20K anytime soon. And it did in like a week. So that's just, you know, everyone has such short-term memory. You've got to be prepared for this sort of scenario. And that's actually, it's very seldom, maybe once every couple of months, that there's opportunities like this where there's really strong signs of a reversal. Sorry, I'm mincing my words today. But this is one of those times. And this is where I've spent so much time just paying attention to the prices and the charts when I don't really want to. But I also recognize that, you make one really solid trade and it can, it could be the best trade of the year or the best trade of your life. And these sorts of trades, it's not just trading ranges. When you swing for the fences, it can really pay off. It's just that you have to be, sometimes you have to take a few stabs at it. This is probably my third attempt to short this down, and I've profited along the way. But I'm going for much bigger profits. So I'm willing to cut it if I'm wrong and then get back in again if it does another deviation, something like that. That's fine. I'll do that all day until I get it right. And so there's no way to really know for sure. This could happen today. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen on Friday. I think it's going to be sooner than later that we see some expansion to the downside. So trying to keep it concise. That's all I've got for you all today. I hope that you enjoyed this live stream, and I'm open to your suggestions if you have any in the comments. There's not a whole lot of excitement around crypto right now, and I understand why that's the case, and that's one of the reasons why I'm just kind of keeping it really brief. If there were more of you and you were interacting and you're actually, giving me something, then I would feel like I feel more inspired to share, just being perfectly honest with you all. I know that some of you are watching this after the fact, and that's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that. So, yeah, I'm trying to play the probabilities, and I'm also sharing with you my own bias, where I stand today. And most people right now, I think, are still believe that the price is going to continue to just go up forever, and or at least until whatever 30K or something. And I say, well, don't be so sure when you see what's happening. I just showed you the Dixie, I showed you the VIX, I showed you the S&P 500, and they're all basically screaming for a reversal. The word that I can't say today. They're screaming for it. And so I don't know. I mean, trade however you want, but at the end of the day, for me, it's just about making money. This is how I earn my living. So I'm sharing with you all my moves. For those of you that haven't joined the C3, if you want to, you can. There's no pressure whatsoever. I don't really care. I'm probably going to close it off at some point. It's free right now. And that's all I've got for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video and have a beautiful rest of your day.